Christ, our last sacrifice, the eternal Son, Messiah has come, the true Son of Man, the atonement Lamb. There is only one God. There is only one mediator standing between God and man. He's the only way, the only way. There is only one God. There is only one mediator standing between God and man. He's the only way to salvation. He's King. He will reign forever. He is a mighty King, and His will is done. We see His hand at work, see His kingdom come. He is a loving King, caring for His own. He's working for our good, we are not alone. Jesus, this world is in your hands. Jesus, my life is in your hands. Jesus Christ is King. He will reign forever. He is a sovereign King, ruling from His throne. So we can rest in Him. He is in control. He is a faithful King. He will never leave. And He provides for us everything we need. Jesus, this world is in your hands. Jesus, my life is in your hands. Jesus Christ is King. He will reign forever. All His people sing, praise His name forever. Pilate asked, so you think you're
Come on in. We're heading to the last stretch of the amazingness of Connect Midwest.
and soldiers laugh, this king can't save you.
Man, you know it's the last day because 9:30 just went out the window.
Jesus saved our souls from hell.
Just like New Year's conference.
It's like 9:30 must be a friendly suggestion. I was standing up here at the front at 9:30 and I was the only person in this room.
I was outside talking. I was like, this is so fun. I feel like we should probably be starting soon. And then I looked at my watch. I was like, oh, like 2 minutes ago. Get this party rolling.
Jesus Christ is King. He will reign forever. All His people sing, praise His name forever. Jesus Christ is King.
All right, what if we turn the music down? Shh. While other people are slowly trickling in here.
There's so many things that we're.
What did you guys do last night? Like what did Lexington do? What?
Bars.
Good time? Great time. And Peoria, the scene in Peoria.
They're at the Souders house.
Yeah, pretty good. All right.
Bonfire in the front yard.
Western Michigan, what did you guys do? Okay, what did you do at your grandparents' house?
Drank beer, bonfire, good times.
Minneapolis, what did you guys do?
Culver's.
Who feels like they performed in the most epic way in the Mafia game?
Mafia, that is such a Minnesota.
Reed. Was he the Mafia and tricked everyone?
Oh, Paul and I got into some major marijuana, but apologize later.
Yeah, a little flex there at the end, babe. Yeah, I when I was the regional director in Minneapolis, I quit playing Mafia because of that. Like, I felt weird. So I can't even believe that Reed did that and that he won.
And they also trust him.
That'll be a conversation.
What?
Central Illinois?
Hey, Reed.
What did you guys do? What did Central Illinois folks do?
They were at the
Stefan's house.
Stefan's house.
Yeah. Good times?
Party in the yard.
Nice. Indy? What did you do?
Dinner and games. Mafia? No, not with Matt Casey. He would not like that.
Columbus? Is that the last one? What did you guys do? Irish pub. Nice.
So fun.
You know, maybe, while we just highlighted Indy, maybe while we're still on that.
Speaking of Matt Casey, where is he?
Where is Matt?
Oh, there he is. Hey.
Matt, word on the street is that today's your birthday.
You get to sit all the way back there for your birthday. Aw, should we sing? Matt was so excited about us singing right now. Let's do it.
Matt, how old is Matt Casey? 43. Wow. You're getting on up there.
Okay, I'm going to take a selfie of all of us for your birthday, Matt.
This
Happy
is Matt's birthday selfie.
Got it?
All right.
I'll send it.
We don't have Kevin here to do worship this morning, which is sad. But instead, we will sing in a cappella, Happy Birthday to Matt. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Matt. Happy birthday to you.
You're welcome.
There you go, Matt.
There you go. Yes,
Annie,
happy birthday, Eve.
Annie, take that happy birthday to
is.
Matt. Imagine it in your mind with the word and feel blessed.
Okay, you guys, while we're all here to do many things. One of them is for Paul and I to tell you what are some of our favorite things. And 2 years ago, we brought those Beat earbuds, and those were our favorite things. Those were awesome. But not as exciting as what Paul got me for Christmas this year. Sometimes he gets me something, I'm like, I don't even know what that is, and I don't know why I'm getting it. But this time, I was like, babe, that favorite thing of yours is now the favorite thing of mine also. So we have AirPods Pro. I thought that my Beats canceled sound. They did not. These cancel sound. I put these on, and I'm looking at my girl's lips moving, talking to me. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. These are so great. So this is on the line today for our Kahoot. Favorite things. What's our topic of the Kahoot today, babe?
And the last 2 times, we've tried to be very inclusive in this competition of all people in the room from wherever they are. But given as how this is the Midwest Network Staff Conference, this prize, even if someone from the church or from CO Serve or somewhere else wins, they're not going to get this.
Oh.
Only someone who is on staff in the Midwest. So Sam and I are excluded. Obviously, we're not playing. We know all the answers. Julie can't win again. Ben Burkholt, sorry, Ben. But if you're on staff, this could come to you. Yeah, or a spouse.
Or a spouse.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get a paycheck.
I love Amy.
You got it.
And she's filling out the Kahoot. And if Amy were to win, I would feel both like, oh, good, I'm glad you won, but then also like, but I don't know that you should win.
She's out.
So.
She's out. She knows.
All right.
Okay, I think everybody's in. We're going to start this. Forky again. Love it.
Okay, is everybody on here? Everyone good? Everyone
No.
in?
What? No.
All right, let's do this. Let the games begin.
What? No.
All right, it was Poteet, it was Midwest, now it's Campus Outreach Trivia. How much do you know about the organization that you work for? What year was Campus Outreach founded?
Oh.
This is a softball. This is underhand pitch.
50th coming up,
Come on.
guys. 50th in 2028. 50th.
If you don't know this, shame on you.
We're going to have everyone that gets it wrong stand up for public shaming.
1978 was a pretty epic year. It's also the year that I was born. Little did I know how much my life would be intertwined with Campus Outreach. All right. So most of you got that. Good for you. Jace's leg.
What? Yeah!
All right. Clearly some inside jokes going on here. Let's keep moving. At what school did it begin?
What school?
Where did Campus Outreach launch?
Montevallo, Samford, Troy, UAB. Which school was Campus Outreach's first? Samford, right there in Birmingham. Samford. Olin
go.
went there. Amy Tankersley went there.
Oh!
What is happening right now? Just keep going.
Jace's leg has sapience. That's amazing.
By
But
3
look,
points.
I just
By
want you
3
to look
points.
like this is separated by
3 points.
milliseconds
Ooh.
between answers. So come on.
Get ready, get ready.
In what year was the first international expansion?
What year? First international expansion. Look at them. Straight out of the 80s.
It's nice puffy sleeves. This gentleman looking all dapper. You can see Brian Furpo in there. Oh, it was 1990. Yes, this is probably going to make some separation. Oh, Micah.
Micah.
Yes.
What?
Man,
Micah Schultz.
there are all of these strange impersonal forces
Wow, guys.
that are showing up.
Some of you.
Adonis's hairline making some moves,
Cam's
literally and
laugh.
figuratively.
Wow.
All right,
Wow.
let's keep going.
Wow.
Where was that international expansion to? That team, where did they go?
Khon Kaen, Chiang Mai, Udon Thani, Bangkok. Where was it? Where was it? With those puffy sleeves and 80s dresses.
Oh, it was to Bangkok.
We're not even
Little did you
there.
know.
We're not even
Get your
there
history
anymore.
right. I fact-checked and fact-checked and fact-checked this Kahoot all through the night. Fool me once, shame on me.
Keep moving.
Yes.
All right, who did that?
Oh.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Wow. Adonis.
All right. Let's keep going. Which of these places was not an international launch? We have never been to these places.
Tokyo, Kazakhstan, Lima, or Berlin. Not there. Where did we not have an international
We've
launch?
been to 3 of these. But there's one of these we've never been to.
Where have we not been? Berlin.
Oh, Berlin. There were some
Kazakhstan,
early
Lima, and
launches
Tokyo.
that did not fare so well. One was Tokyo, one was Kazakhstan. Lima, we currently have a campus outreach in Lima, so those 5 people who picked Lima, you're in the same boat as me with Greece. So welcome to the club.
Oh,
Micah
Micah.
is to not be denied. All right.
Here we go.
2 more. What year was the first summer project? We all love summer projects. What year was the first one of those? There it is, the first one.
Nice.
yeah.
Majority of you got it. 82.
But how has that affected things? Oh!
Wow. 200 point
The
lead
hairline
right
has
there.
receded.
The hairline has receded.
Yes. All right. Micah, Brock, Melrose, not sure who that is. Rojas, Mermanda. You got to be quick for this. All right. It's probably going to be It's probably going to be one of those names. Here's the last one.
Ready. Read it fast.
Where was the first CCP sent to? Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, Brazil. Where was the first CCP?
Where was it? The first
6,
CCP.
5. Oh, this is just going to separate it. Who's it going to be?
You guys didn't see that coming.
Oh,
Taiwan.
it was
Only 6 of
actually
you.
To Taiwan. Yeah, I know.
Look,
These are, if you knew your
CO
history.
trivia. CO trivia.
It's not a trick. The trick is that you don't know this, Matt. Yeah,
Taiwan.
it was to Taiwan, and then shortly after, a CCP was sent to South Korea. And those were the first 2. And then after that, one was sent to Thailand. So Thailand was not even, I think when they went there, it was like, these are going to be tougher. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what was the thought behind that. So could you guys like scoot back where you've got your knees able to, I think we need a drum roll for this one. Come on, give it to us. Yeah, there we go.
Third
All right.
place first.
3rd place. Oh, good try.
Back.
2nd place. Oh, not sure that it is. 1st place.
Who is it?
Who gets it?
Did it?
Micah!
Newer staff win.
Woo!
This is amazing. Micah's been studying for years.
Micah, come here.
Oh, interview with the champion.
Let me, what do you think was your secret this morning?
I don't know. I was just out there guessing.
How many did you get wrong?
2.
Did you just, like, as soon as it came on, just hit? Did you think, like, what's your strategy? Some people here need help about how to do cahoots and how to win. What were you thinking?
I don't know. Some of them were obvious, but I didn't know the CCP one. So I was just, if I didn't know it, I just guessed right away.
Do you have headphones already?
I do.
Do you have those already?
I do.
What are you going to do with those?
That's a great question.
All right. How many of you want some Micah trivia? Yeah. How many of you really appreciate Micah? Maybe you want to talk to him, ask him some questions after this. You can go sit down. Thank you very much.
You can keep it. All right.
Okay, I've got to get out of this.
But remember, we are committed to those of you who did not know that where our first expansion, our first CCP was. So we have a consolation prize for you today. And that consolation prize, yesterday we did, if we're going back to Amy's talk on affectionate knowledge, yesterday, giving you some help on affection, seeing and savoring Jesus, the miniature version of gentle and lowly, stirring your affections. Today, a little more on the knowledge. We're going to hand all of you The Daily Doctrine by Kevin DeYoung. So I got this because the East Coast Network, Joe Nairmore sent this to all of his network team, and he said, you guys, this is concise. It's one a day. It's like a page and a half of this is what our churches are built off of. Daily Doctrine. So good. I picked it up, and at night, I would just like, okay, that is a seminary word that I forgot since my last seminary class, and there it is. Really applicable, accessible, helpful, just building a foundation. So Daily Doctrine, all of you will get a copy of it when you head out today.
Yep, and I think that there should be enough for couples, for the spouses to get one, but I'm not positive, so maybe one per couple to start. And then if there's more left over, then we'll let you know. So, but grab one of these. I started reading through it, and it's really good. It takes you through systematic theology. It's enjoyable. Sam is going to give a little Women's Midwest Development update. But before she does that, it's just, I think, worthy to note, like, it's really challenging when it comes to developing the women in the Midwest because there's so many women in so many stages of life. And so I have it pretty easy because most of the guys that are on staff, especially the regional directors, they've just kind of been moseying along on staff the whole time. But with women, there's single women on staff. There's single women who are volunteering who are on staff. There's single women who are kind of part-time on staff. There's single women who are working full-time jobs and volunteering after that to be on staff. There are women who are married who are on staff, who are not on staff volunteering. I mean, it's like a Rubik's Cube of complexity. But yet, she's engaged in there, and there have been a lot of cool things happening on the women's development side of things. And, I've said this before, but there are two areas in the Midwest where I feel like if the Lord would be kind and gracious, that it's something that we could all pray for, is that there would be obviously more women on staff and ministering on the campuses, but then also more resource staff. And so those are kind of the two things that whenever we do updates at CO Serve or with other networks, and it's like, how do we want to see the Midwest grow and develop? I mean, we obviously want more staff, but we specifically would be very, very blessed to have more women come on staff and more resource staff join the fold. So Sam's going to give a little update about women's development.
So I just want you all to be encouraged. The next slide that I'm going to show you, this initiative did not just come from me thinking, how can I serve the women better? Paul and I did a couple of things. We both met with all of your directors, and on a few topics. How can we serve you? How can we better serve you guys? Because we're just here working for you. We're serving you, whatever you need. And so we were like, well, specifically went through a few things. What about on the women's side of things? What could we do to serve you? And that was a great conversation, and some of what I'm about to talk about came from that. But then we went to the network. We do have a CO Serve Day where all of the CO Serve, some international, meet in Birmingham. And then the network directors, so the 3 guys that do his job, the women that do my job, and then 2 international parts for that. Like, what are the challenges that we're facing that we need to really lean into? And there are a few things we listed, but one of them is, man, how do we better bring in and tap into the gold that our staff wives? There are women who have been on staff and then got married and had to step away for primary caregiving, but some of them, their kids are graduating or they've got more time and they are wanting to enter back in, and these are people with character and vision, and they have stayed the course. And we've got some young 19, 20-year-olds coming to Christ, and then we're hiring them. They don't even know what they're doing, and we've got this gold mine of people. How can we do that? So from that came the first Midwest Wives think tank. We have representatives from every region, and because I love the Working Genius, we have someone checking all the boxes on Working Genius. So that has been really fun, and we did it in 2024. We did the first one, and then we are now in our second iteration of that. And our conversations are, how can we better help our directors and help our teams serve the wives that are on staff in all the different stages, on staff, not on staff, volunteering, however. So that's been fun. The other thing that we're doing on women's training is we're doing online trainings. Brittany Casey did the Myers-Briggs training online for anyone that wanted to do that, just helping people learn your design, cover that in assessments, but also we want to keep helping people think through that and wherever they are. I did one on ministry and an over-sexualized culture, and then Wendy Eunice offered ministering to students with mental health challenges. So offering things to women specifically that are women-specific issues. And then also there were freedom fight groups. I know that a lot of the men are aware of the freedom fight groups that have been offered, but we had a women's 30-day challenge and accountability group going through even beyond that, taking some of the tools from the freedom fight for people who are experiencing sexual brokenness, which is all of us, but people who really wanted to focus on that and say, how can I grow in my sexual brokenness? And so we went over the faster scale and talked about how that actually has huge implications for our discipleship groups, for people who wouldn't say, my unwanted behavior has to do with sexual struggles, but actually these other things like, I really need to get off my phone. Faster scale, super helpful for that. So, and then the exciting thing that we did, which was on the off years from this, before we had our first Midwest Staff Connect, I had pulled the women together to do something. We had women in leadership, and then we had women who were full-time single staff doing something, did that in Airbnb, and then after we had done Indy, it was like, okay, let's do something for any of the women that can make it to the Women's Staff Development Intensive. We called it Elevate in Cincinnati. Far right corner was my planning team. We had a little pickleball tournament before we started. And there it is. Your directors paid for a used budget to help you get there because they are very committed to helping the women in this room be developed. There were wives that were there who are not getting a paycheck, but the directors paid for you to get there because your directors are really investing in the women in their staff team. When the favorite thing, I was like, I'm sorry, what? Yes, you can. First member of my membership team, of my planning team. Yes, Nikki Gillick, we can do that. When the directors said, oh, wait, Minneapolis. Actually, the directors looked at July and April, and they were like, these are the dates that's going to best serve us. It's April 18th through 20th, 2027. And Nikki said, we're going to pivot because don't know what kind of weather you're going to get in Minneapolis, but we do know what kind of weather you're going to get in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. So Elevate 2027 Women's Staff Development is going to be in Murrells Inlet at our hotel there, and she has already, I'm like, here are all the questions I have, and she was like, we got this, I could do this on the backstroke. So Julie and I have our first planning team member for Murrells Inlet Elevate. I'm excited for all the women in here and the ones who aren't to be able to join us for that. So thank you to your directors. Thank you for the way that the network team has, one of the many ways that we wanted to work for you to help you continue to walk in health.
All right, there we go. It's been a long time since I've had the Justin Timberlake, so ready to rock this thing. Yeah, maybe I will break out in song. Sam did not introduce me, maybe because I need no introduction, but I get to share with you guys this morning, and we're going to talk about how God works in the Midwest Network. You know, we've talked about more or less, the pathway that we've traveled is how God works through expansion and multiplication. And so Daniel came and shared all the different ways that God was at work, especially in his heart and in Lindsay's heart, to launch them out to North Florida. Kempton talked about the first place that God works is putting his love into our hearts so that we would love him and love other people. So God has to work there. Then, the place Amy talked about yesterday, the place that God really is going to do work in our lives and in our hearts is through God's word, and so we want to have an affectionate knowledge of that. And then he's working even in all of us counters in here, and all the things we count. I don't know about you, but Zach, that felt very convicting to me. As he was sharing the things that he was counting, I thought, I'm not counting that. I'm not counting that. And I thought, I'm counting the things I'm not counting. So got me. But today, I learned yesterday that God works even through cahoots. I tried to work my way back into Nate France's good graces last night, took him out to eat, bought him a steak, did everything that he needed. I think we're cool, so I know you probably felt the tension in the room, but I think, we good? We're good, all right. So I want to talk about God working in the Midwest Network. But to do that, show of hands real quick, how many of you have ever heard of High Rocks? All right, that's okay. I had never heard of this until lunch yesterday, so that's how you know, Paul Poteet was up this morning working on this a little bit with new ideas and new thoughts, because I thought, you know what, that sounds like what we're about to do this morning. We're about to do some High Rocks. So, but a lot of you don't know what that is. So for those how many of you have actually done this? Beyond just knows what it is. So there's 2 of you that have actually done this. So 3, for those of you, I have never done this. If I misspeak in some way, then raise your hand and correct me. But my understanding is it's kind of like CrossFit, except you run, and then after you run for a while, you do workouts. And then you run, and then you do workouts. And then you run, and then you do workouts, right? Is that more or less it? Okay. So we're going to have a little High Rocks this morning. We're going to run for a little bit, and then we're going to do some workouts. And then we're going to run for a little bit, and then we're going to do some workouts. Not literally, but kind of metaphorically speaking. So the way that I want to take this on is I want to work in reverse order. So we're going to start with how God works in the Midwest Network. When Campus Outreach started, it was a little bit crazy. It was akin to, often it's talked about as the Wild Wild West. And the reason that it's talked about that way is because this is the movie Far and Away. Anyone ever seen this movie? So it's kind of like this land rush in Oklahoma. And I think that it is in some ways very similar to Campus Outreach's growth. Yeah. Exactly. It was exciting because everyone's going out there to try to get to campuses. Wagons were falling apart. Like they were flipping over and children were screaming and dying. There was one woman, it's like that's how it was going. And that led to, ultimately 84 campuses. And there was no rhyme or reason to how it went. I mean, it was like, this would make a good campus. And yeah, I'll raise some staff and we'll go there. And it just kind of, we can talk about it at times as this very calculated, very clear partnership of lots of plans and ideas. But people, we did a campus outreach constitution last year. Like 46 years into this thing, we said, you know what? We might need some kind of structure. Because it was just go and get it done. And so what we knew from the get-go is we do not want a centralized structure. Campus Crusade, the Navigators, InterVarsity, a lot of other ministries, this is kind of how they operate. They're centralized. There's one headquarters, and from that headquarters, they resource everyone else. We instead went with the decentralized model. But this picture, they were kind of both on the same page in the same colors, but I was like, man, that is so much neater. And it looks like there's some connection. Like the campus outreach decentralized was like this. Like it was all janky. And we didn't really work or interact with each other. It was a challenging place, and that led to some challenges. So the decentralized downfall, the first is reinventing the wheel. And here's what I mean by that. If you go on Google Drive and you type in the wheel diagram, it is unreal. The sheer volume of wheel diagrams that you are going to stumble across. You can see one was updated on February 9th. I don't know who did that. Which campus outreach staff was like, man, this wheel needs to be updated. It is confusing. There needs to be some editing. But it was like, but then March 27th, someone's like, no, like we need to reinvent this sucker. We need to work on it. And you can just scroll and scroll and scroll because every ministry, every region was doing their own wheel diagram, their own investigative Bible studies, their own movie Bible studies. Like C.S. Lewis said, that true friendship begins when you meet someone and you say, oh, you too? And that was what's happening in Campus Outreach. It's like, hey, man, we're using this wheel diagram. He's like, oh, you too? It's like, hey, we've got this blue book. It's like, wait, you too? It's like, yeah, we're actually the same organization. We're the same ministry, but we're all doing the same things and reinventing them. And so, obviously, that just led to a lot of people doing things when the whole time, it's like, it's already there. We should get someone to document exactly how many I just got tired. I was like, how do I even demonstrate this? I should have taken 20 different screenshots and just been like, bat, 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 bat. But there's a lot of them. And that was one example of the way that we were independent, but also competitive. So we were reinventing the wheel, and then we were competitive. For the longest time, when you showed up with other campus outreach staff, it was always about how many people are coming to your weekly meeting. How many people are coming to your Bible study? It was counting, like Zach said, but it was very I just want to have more. And even when the directors would get together in October, for the longest time, we had to fill out these forms. I'm not sure how many of the directors in here we filled those out, but often, how big is how much money are you raising every year? How big is your budget? How many staff do you have? How many staff did you have last year? How many staff do you expect to have next year? How many students are on the New Year's conference and the summer project? It was like you're getting this printout, and you know how you're telling how each region is doing? All on numerical, statistical data that just led everyone to compete. And we just feel that all the time. That's part of the decentralized challenge. And it also led to everyone being kind of closed off. That instead of partnering and sharing, each region did it their way. I remember early on, there was a blog. It was, if ever I really wanted to feel like spiritual attack and that Satan was out there, you could type in campus outreach on, it was like in the beginning days of the internet, and there was this one blog, and all these people would come and talk about campus outreach stuff. But I would read that, and I would think, man, I sure am glad they're not talking about my campus outreach. You know, this is some other campus outreaches. They're the ones with these problems. Because I felt like ours is doing it right. And then I would meet other campus outreach staff, and they're like, yeah, those problems, they're not me, it's these other ones that are out there. Because everyone's like, this can't be talking about us. It's got to be talking about everyone else because we're closed off. We're competitive. We would never do something like this, where we would bring every staff that we can from every region that's in a geographic area to come and share and to teach and train and connect. We would never think about, like, I've loved having Daniel Hill from the East Coast Network, having Zach Fulgenetti from the East Coast Network. Last year we had Paul Billings come from the East Coast Network. Olin Stubbs has done so much in terms of assessments and trainings with our staff. Bob Smart kind of fits into that. All the CO Serve staff who are coming here, international staff that come. Like, it's not closed off. It's more open. And as we feel the openness, that's what I think everyone in here, I would imagine, loves about this time that we have together, right? Is just connecting with other staff. As we've talked to people, it's like, what's been your highlight? Talking with people who get it. Talking with people who are doing the same thing. People who are interacting in the same way. And that's just not the way Campus Outreach was. But that's happened as we form networks. And so this was the best diagram that I have of that, where you have, different regions with their campus, but those regions are working together, so that's a way to think about maybe the Midwest Network. And we have currently 3 of those. There's the Midwest Network, and there's the East Coast Network, and there's the South-Southwest Network, and then there's also international networks, because we're trying to say, how can we as a ministry not be reinventing the wheel and constantly competitive and closed off, but interconnected and partnering and celebrating what God is doing in us and through us. And so that's our first little run. And now it's time for the workout. You guys ready for the workout? Here's the workout. I want you to group up, 2s or 3s, think for a moment, and then pair up and then start sharing. How have you or your ministry or your region benefited from being part of this network? Or could you share a story with someone around you of an experience, of partnership and encouragement that you've received from what we're doing as the Midwest Network? So take a few minutes, pair up, talk about it. Do your workout. 2 more minutes. All right, let's bring it back. Everything that you guys just talked about are things that probably 5, 6, 7 years ago really, my guess is, never really happened in Campus Outreach. And so it's just really neat to be at this point in the life of our ministry, because at least in our group, the things that we were sharing, those things are relatively new, and a reality of having networks that work together, which is really powerful. So I hope you think about that is the way that the Lord is at work, and he's at work through this structure to bless your lives. So next, God works in the Midwest. Time to run again on our High Rocks challenge this morning. So this is currently the Midwest Network. Does anyone see anything weird about that map? There are some little, it's really hard to try to match the same color of blue to cover up dots that aren't there anymore, like St. Louis. And I call that to your attention because, you know, kind of like that first Pioneer video, I mean, there's wagons breaking down and horses flipping over and stuff like that. Like, ministry's hard and challenging and messy, and it's not like, hey, let's all partner as the Midwest, and it's just going to be like this, and we're just going to expand. People have gone off staff. People have walked away from the Lord. There have been campuses we've had to pull off of. There have been a lot of challenges. And so, you know, I remember we would partner with a ministry from Michigan State University on our summer projects back in the day with Minneapolis. And, you know, whenever you do a multiplication talk, have you guys ever given a multiplication talk or talked about multiplication, and you draw like a little stick figure or a little bubble, and then there's like 3 lines that come off of that stick figure, and you draw 3 more stick figures, and then off of those, there's like 3 more lines and stick figures, and you put that up there, and it's like, see, go multiply your life. And the staff guy, John Saunders, was like, mine never quite looks like that. And he would like erase a person and then like cross through someone, and this person like never multiplied. He's like, that is a lot more like mine looks. And that's honestly a lot more like what Campus Outreach Ministry is. And so as I flip through some things in the history of the Midwest, there's just challenges along the way, but God works through those. God works in those. You know, per the history, Indianapolis launched in 2002. I remember driving up from South Carolina in a moving truck with Ken Curry to drive to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and stopping in Indianapolis to go to a Pacers game when we spent the night there with the staff who were there. So they were definitely there before Minneapolis. This is a picture of one of their first teams. You can find a young, strapping, handsome Matt Casey with Brittany before they had any kids. You can see Patrick and Tara Lewis are in there. Chad and Mandy Mary, who are in London now. Maybe there's some other people in there, but that was one of the first indie teams that was launched in that season. And it's just wild that every one of us kind of in this room, it all started with this team just moving to Indy and starting to do ministry. Minneapolis and Lexington followed suit in 2003. This was our 8 that started in Minneapolis. Sam and I were not beside each other because we did not really like each other. Andrew Knight was trying to be very Scandinavian in his Scandinavian sweater. David Mathis, a lot of you, Habits of Grace, you know, David Mathis has written a book and does a lot of stuff with DG, and he was a part of our team. He and I were roommates for 3 years. And little did we know that in 2003, Reed and Nikki looked like this. And it's just crazy that I actually have a picture of Thug Life Soccer Nikki that says 2003 on it. Because when we were launching, I don't know what all Nikki was doing, but she was doing some stuff. And then Reed, man, he was rocking the puka shell like no other. How many of you had a puka shell necklace? Yeah. You guys should have like some kind of way to connect and share the goods on that. But to think, like, it was wild the first night that we were here meeting some Minneapolis staff that I'd never met before, didn't know anything about. And it's just so wild to think that God starts things and he works and he multiplies and he moves, and it's super encouraging. The Lexington team, I wish the picture was more crisp, but man, Sean and Emily Schweikart are over there, like Blake and Liza. Blake, I think Blake, is that you back in the back with the orange? Yep, Blake and Liza are in there. Shane and Brittany Terrell, who are now pastors for Grace at Center Church, they're right kind of there front and center. It's just wild to think, like, I mean, this is not the team that moved. This was a few years into it. But just the way that the Lord worked. And at this point, again, this was like the wild, wild west. We weren't thinking about partnering together as Minneapolis launched. As Kentucky came and launched, no one's talking to them about what they're doing. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. But even in the midst of that, God's at work. So Central Illinois, they launched in 2007. I really liked Stefan's hair. It was great. I think, Stefan, you should consider growing it back out, kind of like that. You got Nate is in there. Zach Rogers down on the end. Jeff, I think. Kenny. Yeah, look at those strapping lads all coming up here. And to think of being on all the campuses that you guys are on, and the church, and the testimony from Greg the other day of all that God has done through these teams. So lastly, Western Michigan launched in 2020. That was a nice year to launch. Kenny, see, we were partnering together. We were thinking about what's the best year to launch, 2020. And, you guys launched out in that year. And, every one of us in the room right now are a part of all of this. Think of all the students, all the graduates. I think about the CO Connect stuff that Sam and Brian were talking about the other morning. And I haven't even begun to think about all the people that I could send information out to connect and be a network. But, the Lord has just worked and done so much in the Midwest. And he did all this over the last 24 years. That's not a lot of time. Maybe some of you in here are younger than 24. There's not many of you who are younger than that. But it's kind of like just in a lifetime, that many ministries, that many campuses, that many things that are happening. And it makes me wonder, like, what might the Lord do in the next 24 years? Like, what slides might we put up 24 years from now? Because, like, even in the short run, there's really cool things happening in the Midwest. So there's just some info. We do these regional health assessments, so I've just kind of gone through those and just pulled out a couple of things for you guys to know what's happened in the Midwest. So people on staff between 0 and 3 years. In 2022, 41% of the room were 0 to 3 years. And then 2023, 47%. Then 2024, 53%. Like, each year, there's more and more people coming on staff, and more people getting younger. And there's pros and cons and all kinds of things about that. Gospel presentations. And again, how realistic are these stats that we turn in? I don't know. But it's all we've got to go off of. And I don't think that everyone is collaborating. We know that we don't partner together very well. We're competitive. So we're doing this. We're not trying to say, what's everyone else saying? But in 2022, in the Midwest, we had recorded 1,867 gospel presentations. But then, the next year we dropped off. Not sure what happened that year to go to 1,833. But then up to 2,238. And we don't know what was last year. But I imagine there's probably more. Some of that, there's still COVID effects in there. Professions of faith in 2022, we recorded 119 in the Midwest. 2023, 171. And then last year, or 2 years ago, 213. I think there's more last year. Like, even hearing of 41, who was sharing up here about 41 professions of faith? And who was it? Yeah, in Indy this year. Like, that's remarkable. And I don't put these up here so that we would count. This isn't to make much of campus outreach. This is just to say, what is the Lord doing? How is the Lord working? How is the Lord moving? And he's done that in some way in each of your lives. So That's our next little run. It's time to work out again. You guys ready to work out? So here's what I want. I want to highlight this verse. In Psalm 77, I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old. I will ponder all your work and meditate on your mighty deeds. Your way, O God, is holy. What God is great like our God? You are the God who works wonders. And if the first thing we talked about was how you've benefited from the network and our collaboration, maybe what has God done in your life or through your life over the last 5 to 10 years? Share, partner up, think about it, pair, and share a story of like, maybe it's something that God did in you. Maybe it was someone that came to faith. Maybe it's just an amazing story of this is how the Lord worked in your ministry. But pair up, share, and I'll bring us back together in a few minutes. All right, let's take a few more minutes, 2 more minutes. So over and over and over again, especially in the Old Testament, God calls his people to remember. And that's what this psalm is about. And he does that over and over and over again because over and over and over again, God's people forget. And that's what I do, is I forget. Like, it's been good for me to think back over stories, over opportunities, over people's lives, over conversations, over texts, over phone calls, over emails. I have a folder in my email called Why I Do What I Do. And I would encourage all of you to just have, like, every now and again, you get an email or you get something and you make it, I don't know where you want to keep it, but for me, it's been the Why I Do What I Do folder. And I could just go back through there and looked at some of the ways to remember, like, God has worked wonders. Like, each of your lives, God has worked a wonder that you would be his. He's worked a wonder that you would be in this room. Like, that's remarkable. We tend to often forget that and move on because we're so focused on what we wish that God would do, what we think is best, and we lose sight of God and his wisdom and his plan and what he wants to do. When I was going through the slides, something slipped, but I didn't mention Columbus, who was 2012. And I actually have a picture of Columbus too. It's darker. Maybe there was an eclipse that day. But you can see Patrick and Tara, and yeah, I think you're the only ones left from the initial launch in 2012 with little Isaiah and little Lincoln. And to think he's about to go to Ohio State, like, that's just pretty remarkable. Like, again, just all the different ways, all the different places where God's at work. So God's worked in the network. He's worked in the Midwest. And I just want to talk about how God works. And to do that, I want to talk about four ways that God works. The first way, God works in spite of you. And there's kind of a positive angle on this and a challenging angle. Here's the positive angle. Isaiah 64:4, from of old, no one has heard or perceived by the ear, no eye has seen a God besides you who works for those who wait for him. God is the one who works. He's the one who's doing this. He's saying, all you've got to do is wait. Like, wait for me to show up. Wait for me to act. You don't have to do anything. I will do it for you. Like, that was some of the beauty in what Zach was sharing yesterday, right? Is thinking, like, we don't have to work that, like, we can be the workers at the end of the day and get paid all as much because Jesus has done all that work. Like, God has done the work in our lives. He's done the work in our network. He's done the work on your campuses. He's done the work in your personal ministry. And that's the kind of God that we have. I love this passage here. We're not the Ethiopians and Libyans, a huge army. So the people of Israel were going out to fight this battle with very many chariots and horsemen. Yet because you relied on the Lord, he gave them into your hand. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strong support, to work for those whose heart is blameless towards him. Like, God is looking for people and wanting to work. God knows the students that you've been spending time with on your campus and in recruiting to summer project who you really thought were going to go, and they said no, and they're not going. And you could think, it's not going to happen. He's not going to work. But I can tell you so many stories of the freshmen who said no, but who as sophomores said yes. Or the people that I didn't know until they were seniors, and they came on a summer project as a senior, and then ended up coming on staff. You just don't know how the Lord is at work, but you can know that God is giving strong support. He's working for you as you pursue him, as you pray, as you step out in faith. It may not be going the way that you think it's going to go, but this is the kind of God that we serve and the kind of work that he wants to do. God works in spite of you. I love this one, Psalm 50. Offer to God a sacrifice of thanksgiving and perform your vows to the Most High. And call upon me in the day of trouble, and I will deliver you, and you will glorify me. When you have hard things, you call upon him and he will show up. He will work and you will glorify him. Sadly, in my life, when things happen or I have a good conversation or someone comes to know the Lord or I lead a Bible study, I don't really talk about what the Lord has done. I'm much more prone to talk about what Paul has done. I've been struggling as I've thought about this of thinking through the phrase like, I led them to the Lord. I don't think that's a bad phrase to use, but it's more appropriate to say like God found them. Like I just happened to be I happened to be nearby where the Lord found them, or I discipled him. I discipled him in college. That was my discipleship group. All that's true. I don't think we should change the way that we talk, but we need to change the way that we think and the way that we believe, because God's the one who's growing these students. God is the one who's growing you. Like any person through my life that has been helped is not because Paul Poteet has helped them. It's because Paul Poteet has just been in the vicinity, a conduit through which God has shown up in the day of trouble and delivered them, where God has worked wonders, where God has done things. And there's such an encouragement in that because the pressure's off, right? Like you just be faithful and trust for God to work because that's the kind of God he is. I think the most familiar passage for all of us in this, right, that we've probably all quoted, we probably all know, is this one in 1 Corinthians. Paul says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God caused the growth. You could say God worked. So neither he who plants nor he who waters is anything. Man, I want to be something. I so want to be something for the Lord. But the reality is only God gives the growth. He who plants and waters are one, and each will receive his wages according to his labor. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's field, God's building. God's at work, and he's doing this, and he's inviting you into it in an encouraging way. One story that I think about, just to think about God working and me not even doing anything. So kind of like what Blake was sharing yesterday, I went to a camp last summer with my daughter, Maddox. And I was in this room with 6 other men, and she was in a room with their daughters. And we went on this was an e-bike ride, and that was us at the top of the mountain looking out over the mountains of California. It was a beautiful thing. And the dad and his daughter right beside me that I've got my, kind of the awkward, I don't really know this guy, so I've got like the awkward back hold. His name's Watson Barker. And I had never met Watson. He lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we just hung out for that week. And then every now and again, we would text. And there was a day when one of our supporters who had been on our support team for about 10 years emailed me and said, hey, I'm sorry, we got to come off your team. And you know, like when you're in a season of raising support, the absolute worst thing that you can ever experience is in that season of raising support when someone else comes off your support team. And so we were in that season. And then later that afternoon, I got a text from Watson, just out of the blue saying, hey, my wife and I have been talking and we want to come on your support team. And then, can you send me the information? And they came on our support team for the exact amount that person left my support team for that morning. And that's a place where the Lord just worked in spite of me. I just was worried. And whenever that person comes off, that's when my prayer life really kicks up. Like when I get that supporter I'm dropping off email, it's like, all right, Lord, it's time for that day of prayer. I've been neglecting that day of prayer for a while, but it seems like it's time. You're just kind of telling me, Paul, that day of prayer. And it was like one of those little Nehemiah prayers, like, Lord, can you provide? And then bam, that afternoon, out of the blue, someone, I was not going to ask him. I'd only known him for 4 months. You got to kind of work those relationships a little while before you're going to pose that question. And God just showed up. My second year on staff in Minnesota, I got an email from a high school teacher. And he said, hey, I've got a student who is at the U of M. I think he's really close to coming to faith. I heard about your ministry. Would you talk to him? I don't know who this guy is. I never met this guy. I have no idea how in 2004 he got my email like that. It's kind of creepy. But he put the guy's phone number on there. So I'm like, all right. So I called him up. I don't think I even had a text plan. I was like, hey, is your name Dylan? I got an email from a guy, and he said we should maybe have lunch. And he's like, all right, let's have lunch. So we went and had lunch. And I just shared the bridge diagram with this guy that just kind of dropped out of the blue. I'd been spending days and days and days in the dorms, and then this happens. And then I get an email from Dylan later that night, and the email says, this was in my Why I Do What I Do file. He's like, hey, I can't explain it. I've been like kind of thinking about God, but something happened today after we talked,
and I just went to the bathroom. I broke down. I begged Jesus to come in my life and save me. And I don't know what it means. I know I said I don't want to share my faith. I don't want to do ministry stuff. But whatever the Lord has for me, I want to do. And then I started meeting with Dylan, and we met for 4 years. He came on staff. At the time, he had this nice mohawk. The week after he came to Christ, he's like, hey, I've got an extra ticket for this anti-flag Bad Religion concert. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, all right. Like, this is like the epitome of punk rock. So, I mean, any of you ever been to like a really like intense punk rock concert? So it was just a small room. It was like the size of this section right here with about 700 people packed into it. And everyone is sweating like crazy, and you just kind of do this, and you mosey your way up to the front, and then you get to the front, and you get on the stage, and you jump off, and you crowd surf, and you just kind of roll all the way back to the back, and then you kind of mosey back up to the front. And, when I went to pick him up, he was at his friend's house, and they had this huge bong just packed full of weed, and it was, it was crazy. But to think, like, I didn't go to the dorms and find him. Someone had been talking with him for a long time. He just kind of dropped into my lap. I would have, if I had seen him on the campus, if I had had Facebook and had seen this picture and knew this is who he is, I'm like, I'm not gonna hang out with that guy. But the Lord just worked in spite of me. I didn't do anything, and he just showed up. It's a positive way to think about it, but there's kind of a challenging way to think about it. And I think Acts gets at that. The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. I like the Isaiah passage, but I think I need this passage more, because God doesn't need you. God doesn't need me. God doesn't need the Midwest. God doesn't need a network. God is going to accomplish his purpose. And when I read this over and over again, I've just thought, he is not served by my hands as though he needed anything. And I need that rebuke. The times that I think I'm doing something, that I'm leading someone to Christ, or I've discipled this guy, or I've made an impact, I don't want to downplay the role that God has through us. But this is the Lord working. He's the one who does it. Deuteronomy says it this way. And when the Lord your God brings you, so he's bringing the people into the promised land. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob to give you, with great and good cities that you did not build, and houses full of good things that you did not fill, and cisterns that you did not dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant, and when you eat and are full, then take care lest you forget the Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. It is the Lord your God you shall fear. Him you shall serve, and by his name you will swear. It's not your guys. It's not your girls. It's not your campus. You didn't lead them to the Lord. You are just getting invited into this opportunity and this experience for God to work. And on one hand, the Isaiah 64 verse, like, God works for those who wait for them. It's like the pressure's off. Like, feel free. Know that God's at work. But then on the other hand, the Acts passage and this passage, it's like God doesn't need us. God doesn't need campus outreach. But he's invited you in. He lets you be a part of that work. When I think about God working in spite of me, the story that comes to mind is this one. This is my D group, my first D group, my freshman year in college. For the longest time, Sam thought that I was a Christian dork because she believed that I wore all kinds of shareware. And honestly, when I came to college, I wasn't a Christian and didn't own any Christian material. And I was looking at this picture. I'm like, I got a Jesus fish. I'm sporting that at Summer Project. So the guy in the middle is Brian Riddle. Brian was my suite mate my freshman year in college. He did not know the Lord. At that point in my life, I had never met someone more wild and crazy and lost than Brian Riddle. Again, for me, I grew up very self-righteous. So, Brian's the guy, he's smoking like a hard pack of Camel menthols a week. Like, he's just always smelling like smoke. He's going out to the parties on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. He's trying to find ways. He's stolen multiple TEG caps from fraternities because you can turn the keg tap back in at the liquor store and they'll give you the deposit. So he was stealing these caps from fraternity guys and turning them in at the store to get the $50 to go out and buy his cigarettes. Like, he was always swearing. Like, for me, as the self-righteous, pharisaical person that I was, it was like, I don't know that you can get further away from God than this guy. And so I went to a New Year's conference. Kent Bailey was our speaker, a guy named Bruce Olson. Anyone ever read the book Bruchko? It's like a missionary biography. So he was supposed to be our speaker, but he was a missionary in Colombia and had been captured by drug lords. So pretty good reason to miss the conference. Kent Bailey was the backup, and his challenge was, can you pray for one person? Like just one person that might believe in Jesus through you sharing the gospel. And I'm like, man, that's an easy one. I'm gonna pray for Brian. So I started sharing with Brian, sharing the gospel with him, talking about all kinds of things about Jesus, trying to do the best job that I could as a new believer, freshman in college, wearing the occasional Jesus fish to talk to him. And it was just never stick. And then he heard about Summer Project, so he applied to Summer Project. And I'm like, why in the world would he apply to Summer Project? But he was like, I mean, it's at the beach, right? And I get a job. Like, I don't have a job here. I'll just go get a job there. And in the application packet, we used to mail out these big packets. And in the packet, we would put a 4 spiritual laws track. And Brian got that packet, and he was like, rules. Yeah, I'm not going to this thing. And then he turned the pack upside down and shook it, and that 4 spiritual laws track fell out. And he got it, and he started reading through it. And he came to a picture of like man on the throne or God on the throne of your heart. And he's like, I'm on the throne of my heart. And he got down on his hands and knees, and he asked Christ to come into his life, and he came on Summer Project, and he's been walking with the Lord ever since. Really crazy. Every summer, me and Brian and Jamie from that group still try to get together, so that was like 2 summers ago. And then I get a call from Brian 2 years ago saying, hey, my son, I don't think he's a believer. He's at a school that doesn't have campus outreach. Could he maybe come on a Summer Project? So he ends up coming on the Summer Project with Minneapolis, and 2 years ago at our New Year's conference, he comes up because he's like, hey, I came to Christ at that Summer Project. So it's like I was there when Brian, his dad, the Lord saved him, and then his son, Jonathan, the Lord saved him. And in all that, you know who didn't do anything? Me. I had said all this stuff to Brian, and a tract? He came to Christ from a tract. Have you ever had this person come up to you and you've been talking with them about all kinds of spiritual stuff? And they're like, oh, you'll never believe what Reed said to me today. And you're like, dude, I do believe that because I've been saying that to you for the last 3 weeks. I've been saying that to you for the last year. I'm like, Brian, how many times have I have shown you that tract? But I think the Lord wanted to say, Paul, I am not served by your hands as though I need anything. I will save him when I want him, how I want him, and I will do what I want in his life and in his family. I'm sure his son has heard his story, his testimony of dumping out that tract as he tried to share with him, wanting him to come to Christ. And for all of Brian's efforts as a dad, that didn't happen. He's worried about his son. And then he goes to Summer Project with a bunch of people he doesn't know, and God saves him. God doesn't need us, and he's going to work. And we should be encouraged by that. Maybe a way to think about it is this. So growing up, this is the car that my mom drove around when I was young, except she was a mail carrier, so it was decked out. This is AI helping me out because I didn't take a picture of this car. It was absolutely the most embarrassing thing in my life. Being at school and the mail wagon coming up, and I just I was like, school got out at 3. I'm like, Mom, school doesn't get out until 3:15. Pick me up at 3:15 because I didn't want, like, all my friends, they're like, who is getting in the mail wagon? And then shamefully, I'm like walking out. I've got my Snoopy lunchbox hiding my face because I did not want anyone to know that this was my car, this was our family. But because of that, my dad would work on that car every weekend because he had to work, because when you carry the mail, like in back roads and stuff, you have lots of car trouble. And he would get me to help. This is little Paul with his tools. And then, you know, he would bring me out there, and I would like have tools, and I'm playing on the ground. But when my mom came up, you know what I would tell her? Guess what I did? Guess what me and Dad did? We fixed your car. Do you know how many times I actually touched a part of the car? 0. How many times he didn't even hand me a screwdriver and be like, hey, screw here. I'm just sitting over there, you know, with my tools on the ground, probably drooling, and yet I helped fix the car. You know, I do that with my girls. We'll fix things around the house, and they'll be excited, and they'll tell Sam, like, hey, guess what we did today? We worked on this. We fixed this in the house. And it's like, I mean, for any dad in here, you know you would do that job 3 times as fast if your kids weren't there with you. Like, you could just knock it out. And I think that's the same way God is trying to speak to us. He doesn't need us. He invites us in to do meaningful work. It's not that he needs you to go share with people. You need to see people come to faith for your own benefit. You need to be a part of meaningful work. You need to be right there as God shows up. I needed to see God save Brian Riddle. I needed to see him save Jonathan Riddle. I needed to see him save Dylan. God needed to work in spite of me to help me understand that God does not need me. God will work beyond me. God will work beyond you because God is the one who's doing this. So, time for another workout. God works in spite of you. When were you discouraged or struggling or not even aware of what you needed and God provided for you? That's kind of the positive side. That's the supporter. Or when did God work to show you that he doesn't need you, to remind you that he's in control and you're not? That's the negative side. Maybe you got one on the positive, maybe you got one on the negative. Group up, share a little bit. All right, one more minute. All right. What I wouldn't give to hear the stories that are being told right now. I can't even begin to imagine how encouraged we would all feel because we all have these stories. Like, we all have stories of God working in spite of us. Like, if there's anything that should or has the power to encourage you and restore your faith, it's recounting stories like that. That's why again and again and again, God says, remember, remember, remember. But also, tell believers. Like, part of the reason that we're highlighting loving God and being in his word is because that is how God is going to work in you. God often wants to do a work in you before he's going to do a work through you. And oftentimes, even as he's doing the work through you, it's actually him, through that working in you. It's over and over again in the Bible. Ephesians 3, to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all we ask or think, according to the power, where? At work within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations. Like, I've used that verse as a benediction at Bethlehem Baptist Church for the congregation many, many times. And what I've thought mostly about is that God is able to do far more abundantly than all we can ask or imagine. Because that's like the encouraging part. Like, God's going to do more than we imagine. But the powerful thing is, like, through his power at work in us. Like, that isn't like, hey, go out because God's going to do amazing things through you. It's like God is going to do an amazing work in you. And as he does that work in you, he can do that work through you. Lastly, and maybe one of the most cherished verses in all of our faith, right? I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Christ Jesus. Like, you came to faith and God is working in you. He's making you into something different. He's shaping you. He's forming you. I mean, there's so many more verses I thought about, like, we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, that we should walk in them. Like, God is wanting to do this in you, and that is so powerful and so special. Treasure that. And oftentimes, the way that God does his work in you is in the heart, because God works in the heart. As I looked at different verses, there's so many that talk about God working in hard things. In Ephesians 1, in him we have obtained an inheritance, having been predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things according to the counsel of his will. The good, the bad, the challenging, the exciting, the new, the scary, God's at work in all those things. And the most quintessential verse of all, right? We know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. I think there's a version that says, and we know that in all things God works for good. One of the privileges, you could consider like challenges maybe at times, of the role that I have in the Midwest Network is I get invited into the heart. And I know the heart. I know in this room right now the heart that some of you are walking through, that some of you are facing. I know the heart that some of you have faced. I can think of, as I'm looking around, I know the people that I've cried with because I know the heart that you've walked through. And God works in the heart. Oftentimes, that's where he shows up the most. The hardest thing that we've ever walked through is our daughter's illness. And for 6 years, giving her shots and not knowing what's going to happen. And do you know what probably I would look at as the most fundamental time of God doing a major work in me? Was in that. I think about some of the hardships that we walked through at Bethlehem Baptist and with campus outreach and just in ministry in 2020, 2021, and some in this room in 2022. And I look back at those hard things, and oftentimes I'm asked, like, would you do it again? Like, what would you do different? What would you change? And I look back on it and I think, honestly, I don't know that I would change it. Because on this side of it, I see what God has done, and I know that God works in the hard. But at a certain point, it's so hard to see. And you've walked through the hard, and you know that. And there's hard that you're gonna walk through and you're gonna know it. But take hold of the promise that God works in that to work in you. I remember having Jim Cofield come in and do a staff training. He did it on story. Have you guys ever done the one where he does like the story of your life? Oh, well, maybe you got one. We were there together. The rest of you, maybe you want to bring in him. I don't know if he'll do it anymore, but basically he had you map out what are like the 10 high points of your life and what are the 10 low points of your life. And then at the end, he was like, which side of the graph do you think God used to grow you the most? And to a person, it's the heart. And I wish it was different for some of you. I wish that, like, I often think about Peter. Like, you know, he's had a day and he's not caught any fish, and then Jesus shows up and he's like, we haven't caught any fish. He's like, well, throw the fish on the other side. And he does, and he catches the biggest haul of his life, and he comes broken before him and is like, depart from me, God, for I'm a sinful man. And I'm like, see, the Lord can work through abundant blessing. Like, come on, God, like, teach me like you taught Peter. Don't teach me like you taught Paul. Don't teach me like you taught Jesus. I don't want to learn that way. And I don't want you to learn that way. But again and again, God reminds us, like, that's how he works. And so as hard as it is, trust him through it. Lean into him through it, because God shows up in that place. And we know that because God works most effectively in Christ. There's a phrase, I don't know if it's Martin Luther or who it is that coined it, Thomas Aquinas, but crux probat omnia, and it means the cross is the test of everything. And so how do we know that God works for those who wait for him? How do we know that God is not served by human hands as though he needed anything? How do we know that God works all things together for good? How do we know that we have that kind of God? Well, we look at his son. Because in Mark 10, he says, who's going to be the greatest? It shall not be so among you. Whoever would be great among you must first be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. Because even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. How do we know that God works for us? Because he came to serve us, to give his life as a ransom for us. The cross proves it all. That we know that he can work through the hardest thing because there's nothing harder than this. We can look at Christ's life and see that's the power that is at work in us, that resurrection power. This is the hope that we have. So as we leave, as we close up shop for the Midwest Network Staff Conference 2026 and we go our separate ways, can we remember that this is what Jesus has done, and he is with us in the hard, and he is working in you, and he is working in spite of you. And because of all that, maybe, just possibly, over the next 24 years, there'll be more people in this room. There'll be more professions of faith. God will do more. But it's only as we lean into him and trust that he is the one who is working. So, last little workout. How have you seen God at work in you? And maybe how has God worked in the hard circumstances of your life? What reminds you, or how have you been strengthened by Jesus' work on the cross for you? Let's go back into our groups and share with this for a few minutes, and then I'll close this out in prayer. All right. Let's bring it back together. But just for a moment, because here's what I'd like to end is let's just take some time in those same groups and over the things that you've shared, maybe pray for each other, maybe pray for whatever might be on your heart as you leave our time and what you're heading back to. I know for some of you, it's like you've got a little bit of time and then it's off to summer projects. Maybe it's a summer of support raising. I don't know what the needs are. I just feel like it would be a huge miss for us to all be together in a time like this, in a place like this, and not spend some time together praying with and for one another. So I would love to give like a little bit more time for us to pray. And then I'll close this in a few minutes, and then we have a short evaluation and some announcements, and then we'll be done. So in your groups, take some time now to pray over or thank God for the ways that he's worked and what he's done and what he's doing. But let's spend the last time that we have together praying to the Lord.
God, thank you so much that you are the one who has done all of this, that what we've talked about today is a little bit of our redemptive history, but you have been at work through all eternity in these ways. And there's so many stories that exist in this room of the ways that you work, that you've worked in us, that you've worked even through hardship and loss and pain. Lord, the ways that you've worked in spite of our best efforts or in spite of our desires, that you just wanted us to see, that you see us and are committed to us and want to act and show up and deliver and provide. So encourage us, Lord, as we go to Pigeon Forge and Merle's Inlet and Outer Banks and Orlando and have to drive to work at Tampa and just the different places that we will be, but that you will be with us and that you will be working on our behalf and for us. And even as we look ahead to the semester and the work that you would do there, God, just help keep us ever mindful of the kind of God that you are and the kind of work that you are doing. And would you receive the glory, and would we feel the relief and the benefit and the blessing of being able to participate in that kind of kingdom work with you. And so we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. This is the last stretch. If y'all can get your phones out and go ahead and do the conference evaluation. We know we were at the CO Resource Connect with 80 of our staff and sent the evaluation to them afterwards. They're all loyal finishers. You know how many of them filled it out? 15. That was it. So we know you will not fill it out if you don't leave. So please fill it out right now because your voice matters. We heard you 2 years ago. You needed more margin. We put it in, gave you a longer morning, gave you some free time. So please let us know what about this conference while it's fresh. What did you need to hear? What were the things you were like, that I could have done without that? Like, could have used a little bit more of that. We really want to know what you think.
And don't feel pressure to write long paragraphs.
Bullet points. We'll follow
Like a few bullet points is fine. And if we have questions, we know your name. So therefore we know your email and we will track you down and ask you questions. Could we get like a little background music?
For 90 seconds, 2 minutes.
Are you overcome with grief? Are you burdened? Are you searching for relief? Are you hurting? Are you suffering today? There's an answer to your pain. He reigns, he reigns, he reigns. He conquers and he saves. He reigns, he reigns, he reigns.
you guys doing? You need a few more minutes? Wrapping it up? Does anyone feel like 2 more minutes would really be helpful for them? All right. Okay, 2 more minutes. All right. Just do, what is it, ASDJF semicolon, for the ones who didn't finish, just blah, 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 blah.
Thanks for giving us your feedback. It matters.
Real quick, just, doing something like this is not the work of Paul and Sam. It's actually minorly the work of Paul and Sam. It's majorly the work Stefan and Caleb did.
Thanks
a lot
for
of work to
hosting
set
us,
stuff up.
Central Illinois.
Central Illinois, Peoria has lived up to the billing, and I didn't even have to go to Bass Pro Shops.
Yep. Annie designing all of this together with their team. T-shirts, this, making it visually billable. All of your directors who have been meeting to talk about, okay, what do my staff need? How can we let this serve them? So.
Laura Power has flown in every time we've done this to help us run this.
She in here? Nope.
And
she's doing
all
lunch.
of, her and Julie Robinson, Julie did a lot of work too. All the snacks, setting up the books, doing so much all the time behind the scenes. They do a lot to help.
Laura doesn't even listen to the talk. She just sits out there and is serving all of us by setting up the books to make sure you can grab them when you get out there. She is a powerhouse.
After the first day, she was like, hey, we need more snacks. Can I go get more snacks? I'm like, hey, girl, you go get more snacks. There have been a number of CO Serve staff who were here, just kind of hanging out, meeting, wanting to be around the Midwest Network to encourage all of you. Some of them just came with no formal responsibility. They just want to be around something like this that's happening, to be present, to encourage. So that's why, Melanie was here, Brian Phillips was here, Russell Long was here. There's a number of others. And then another CO Serve staff who wasn't here but did a lot for this is Jenny Clark. Jenny works for CO Serve in advancement and raises a lot of money. And so the reason that we can pay for meals and pay for the books and the things that we were able to provide for you guys are because Jenny goes out and raises a lot of money. And at the beginning of this year was like, hey, we've got at least 10 grand for the Midwest Network Staff Conference. So take that and run with it.
She raised it for you.
So that's always really nice to have. So it's often overlooked, the people who are raising all the funds to make things like this happen, and Jenny did a lot of that. So thank you guys for taking time out at the end of your semester and your schedule. We hope that you feel refreshed and encouraged and challenged and connected and all of those things.
This has been fun. It
guys
is
are
really
great.
fun to sit up here and see all of you and serve you and see y'all being encouraged and having conversations. You can't stop to come back in here. It is a privilege for us to serve you, even in this small way.
And like Zach Fulgenetti said yesterday, we probably will not have a Midwest Staff Conference in 2028. There will probably be some kind of national staff conference. So who knows? Who knows where we all might be together, just the Midwest next. We will see what God does.
Okay, last few things. On your way out, this is it. Gather your things, your trash. We did find out there was a dirty diaper left out in the foyer that the staff here had to pick up. So if we could just grab our bottles, all of your stuff, if there's trash in front of you, and let's serve the church for hosting us just to make sure that we have got everything. We're not leaving any traces. So grab your stuff, grab other people's stuff. If you see it, let's get it all the way out of here. Lunch is Jimmy John's, 2 sandwiches per person. It's in the gym. Hit the road. We love you.
It's gonna be okay with a little